What is going on, guys? It's your boy Bleed. It's your boy Al Mac. And this is Bloodshed. It's the recap, the review. We're going to take a look at what was UFC Vegas 29, the banger, the return of the Korean Zombie versus Dan Ige. We're going to throw it to Al. Al, it's Saturday night, man, and it's not crazy late. I'm not yet hallucinating due to sleep deprivation and watching 7 hours of fights and staying up till 3 a.m. How you doing, dude?
Well, sometimes I'm on here hallucinating from not just sleep deprivation, but that's a different conversation. But I'm doing good. Tonight was, I made 22 bets tonight, and I went 11 and 11 right down the middle for a very marginal profit. The prelims for me were really good, but then I went on a brutal losing streak to start the main card, and tonight was a weird one. The 6 of the 12 fights went the distance, and we had 6 fights and with stoppages, which is pretty high for the Apex, something that we've been following. Tonight was one of those nights where I think we had more unders than overs until the final last 3 fights went over the betting total. So it was a good one though. This was, a lot of people were writing off this card as being lackluster. I got to say, from start to finish, this was an awesome card. The prelims were great. It was a good one.
Man, I'm totally with you, Al, from that aspect, right? And it seems like a lot of times these cards that don't have the big name value aren't bringing in the casual audience. They're cards that have a lot of action. And I kind of looked at some of these matchups and knew we were going to have some good fights. There were some pretty clear, just violent spots, some guys that are really aggressive coming forward. You knew that main event was absolutely going to deliver. Boy, did it. But, man, you said from a gambling standpoint, you got off to a hot night, cooled off. Ow, man, I did totally the opposite. The prelims for me were just a nightmare, but picked it up heading into the main card. Well, not quite. We're going to talk about that kicking off this main card. But, man, yeah, super happy to finish as I did. Could have been a better night, though, man. I got to do better than this. But, ow, there's some real funky stuff going on. And we're going to talk about it here. Don't let me forget. I feel like there's a phenomenon we're seeing of fighters winning the first round and then going on to lose the fight. It's real weird, man. And I want to get into this on a lot of these fights because it's just a trend that I've started to notice, So should we kick this card off, Al, with the first fight of the night? We had Matt Brown finding the straight down the pipe KO shot on Dhiego Lima. Ow, this was a bad start to kick off the main card for me. I had Dhiego Lima, bet the money line, felt really good about it, okay? Dhiego Lima, I felt like Matt Brown was going to give Dhiego Lima the fight he needed, which is to stand and bang. And that's how it played out. I felt like if Matt Brown was going to have some success here, it was going to be in some tight spots, some clinch, maybe hit a takedown or two. That wasn't the case. Dhiego Lima working a good leg kick, absolutely affecting that lead leg of 40-year-old Matt Brown. A slower, less responsive, the reaction time, not what it once was. But Matt Brown eventually finds that shot. Matt Brown takes out Dhiego Lima, knocks him cold. Honestly, one of the best KOs of the year. Perfectly timed, perfectly placed, lays him out, face down. Matt Brown has a win over Dhiego Lima. And if you go back 10 years, Matt Brown has a win over his brother, Douglas Lima, who just gave up last week the Bellator welterweight world title to Yaroslav Amosov, man. And it's been a rough go for the Lima bros. And they fell off, just straight up, man. These guys aren't what they were. Dhiego really never has achieved that level. I felt like this was a very winnable matchup for him, man, and he just kind of blew it. He gave Matt Brown that perfectly timed shot. props to Matt Brown. You know, if anyone out there was brave enough to bet 40-year-old Matt Brown, it was a good spot. He has the underdog. He cashes. I take the L on Dhiego Lima. Al, what did you think about this one?
This was one of the only fights on the card that I didn't have. Actually, no, I had the over, a small bet on the over, which obviously didn't cash. The under 2.5 rounds cashed at plus at even money. And yeah, this was we got to see two really, really nice knockouts. This one, the Matt Brown one, and then the Rick Glenn one, right? In the prelim. That was a really good one. But yeah, this was another one where everyone counted out Matt Brown, and it was just abundantly clear that actually no, it looked like Lima actually was.
Lima was winning the fight, in my opinion.
It just kind of changed as soon as Matt Brown came. He adjusted in that in between rounds and was able to time that shot perfectly. And there was just, it was one of those things where Lima was winning the fight pretty much until he was losing it. But I feel like Matt Brown, just veteran adjustment, came in and was able to basically just touch him on the button and end the fight. That was not, not a TKO. That was just a flat out KO.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Matt Brown cashed at plus 170 underdog. So that in the welterweight division, the underdog has cashed at a 38.5% rate over the last 2.5 years. So 62, 99, and 1 for 6 units profit. So there's some value on the welterweight underdogs, especially when you get into this range in the the barely ranked and the non-ranked. This was I'm in hindsight, I stared at this one and was like, there's probably some value on Matt Brown, but after seeing him in his last 2 performances, I was just like, nah, I'm just gonna pass. And what do you know? He came through. It was great. It was definitely a highlight reel knockout, and it was just as good as his walkout song. Matt Brown walking out to Hatebreed, which you told me the story about that tonight. And yeah, so Matt Brown, I don't know, where does he go from here? There's a lot of talk about him and Nate Diaz, but like when you're making matches with him, he's fought everybody,
Yeah.
Everybody that you want to see him fight, you're like, oh wait, he already fought him. So it's tough. Maybe Mike Perry, he hasn't fought him.
Ooh. The problem is Mike Perry's fighting at middleweight now. So, I don't know, man. Like, and the thing is, like, sheesh, that seems like such a dangerous matchup. But then again, Dhiego Lima could have been Dhiego Lima should have been a dangerous matchup. You know what I mean? Like, it's a tough spot because it's like you almost want to like set the guy out to pasture. I mean, the dude's got more gray on his head than any other color. You know what I mean? Like, he almost looks older than 40 at this point.
Oh yeah.
I don't know though. I mean, that's an impressive victory. I mean, he just put a guy's lights out clean. Like, you could argue a whole lot of spots. Like, you could even give him a relatively good, maybe we give him like a young up and comer that needs a veteran test. Man, I don't know. I really don't know where to go with this guy. I still just don't. He's obviously not the man he once was, yet he still possesses the danger he always had at any point. It makes it tough to get a real solid read on this guy. Al, I really don't know where he goes. I guess give him a step up from Dhiego Lima, which is a pretty legit fighter in my opinion. So I don't know. Here's what I think of Dhiego Lima, though. Where I think he goes from here is out of the UFC, man. I'm so sick of this dude. Unreliable. He's a nightmare to back. Like, you can't really bet the guy because of what we saw tonight. But I feel like every time I try to fade the guy, he somehow ekes out a pathetic, ultra close victory. Just a gambling nightmare Dhiego Lima is. I swear, I don't know what to think with this guy. Is there anything you want to say about this fight before we move on, Al?
No, let's move on for this next one with Bruno Silva.
Oh yeah, this was a good one. So, man, I tell you what, Al, wish I could have had some betting action on this one too. I just couldn't pull the trigger. Why? We're gonna tell you why. Bruno Silva, 4 minutes 45 seconds of round number 1. Al, we're talking KOs. My man Wellington Turman. Ain't no TKO situation about this one either. This dude got slept. So this fight for me was pretty. Give me 1 sec, Al. I gotta take a drink.
Yeah. This fight was ridiculous, and I've never seen somebody just get so dominated in that ground and pound position, and then somebody that hits as hard as Bruno Silva. That was he was that I've never seen somebody knocked out that hard from 2 solid shots from the ground and pound
from guard.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was I'm sure I've probably seen it, but I haven't seen it recently, and that was super impressive. And yes, Bruno Silva, man, comes in -125 favorite, definitely delivered, definitely had a ton of value, and I didn't bet this fight at all, so that was pretty disappointing.
Okay, let's see if my throat can hold up. My throat's going out like Dhiego and Wellington. Okay, so here's what I wanted to get at. Yeah, man, you're right. So Wellington, this is how I felt about this fight, right? Wellington Turman, if he could come in here and get his grappling off, he should do good. But you know what was interesting, Al, which I was unaware of this coming into this fight, and it makes me very glad that I didn't bet Wellington Turman. Listen, I put it like this, man. Earlier in the week, I was gonna bet one of the Silvas. Wouldn't you know it? Who do I bet on? The bum Joaquin, who just jumps on the end of a punch tonight, gets absolutely put out. I could have had Bruno. That's the Silva you wanted tonight. Bruno Silva, man. Here's the deal. This guy's got deadly hands. If you watch any tape on him, you look into the resume, this guy just knocks fools out, okay? Wellington Turman got knocked out by a guy who doesn't really knock a lot of guys out in his last fight. I was very worried about the durability of Wellington Turman if he was going to be able to handle them hands of Bruno Silva. He couldn't. But what really backed me off on Bruno Silva, what made it so I could not pull the trigger, the big layoff. This is a guy who was going to fight in the UFC 2 years ago, comes in, gets literally the first cup he pees in, they put the dipstick in, and it's melting the cup. You know what I mean? They go, yo, dude, come on. Like, I don't know what he tested positive for, but he tested positive for PEDs. So doesn't even get to fight, sits out 2 years, comes into this fight, and I go, Bruno Silva on PEDs is putting people to sleep all over the globe. But is Bruno Silva 2 years out of the game, 2 years off the sauce, is he still going to be putting people out left and right? We see guys lose that power coming off the PEDs. Doesn't appear to be the case, man. Bruno Silva comes in here, beats Wellington Turman. I was making a point earlier, though, about the grappling situation that I kind of trailed off on. These guys have actually met each other in competitive jiu-jitsu, and Bruno Silva beat Wellington Turman. I did not know that coming in. I wish I would have known that. It would have really shifted my the viewpoint that I had of Wellington Turman having a very good path to victory here with the grappling, because I haven't been too impressed with Bruno Silva's grappling up to this point, what we've seen on tape. But all in all, Wellington Turman, I mean, he's doing a good job early in this fight. He's finding positions, but Bruno Silva does a phenomenal job negating every time he's in trouble, doing the right thing. Just guerrilla power, this Bruno Silva, to get out of some of those positions. Wellington never really has him in a lot of trouble, like you said, Al. I mean, ground and pound from guard. I mean, if he was in full mount, sure. But for Wellington Turman to, have kind of some protection and ability to get away, we haven't seen anybody turned off of some ground and pound like that in a while. Bruno Silva, maybe that power will fade. These PEDs, they got staying power, man. But it's obviously still there. Impressive stuff from Bruno Silva. I had nothing on this one either, Al. I felt like this one probably wasn't going to go the distance. I thought Bruno Silva could definitely win this fight. Nonetheless, it was a sit back and watch the fight situation. And I said this was a tester fight, a feeler fight to see if Bruno Silva is going to be the real deal. We found out he is, and Al, man, this is looking like a guy we're probably going to be able to cash some tickets on in the future. So I'm going to look at it like that. Yeah, I didn't win anything from this one, but I'm going to take from this, and I'm going to use it to make me some money in the future. That's how I feel about it. Is there anything else you want to say on this one, Al?
Yeah, I feel like he just he was caught young enough. He's not too old. He's not like a TJ situation, which we'll talk about later, where he got dinged at just a young enough of an age at 29. He comes in now at 31, that he's still able to rely on just his youth to get through. Whereas, you know, a lot of guys turn to PEDs because, you know, they're getting older. So you'll see a lot of guys and like they're just on that cusp of the wrong side of 35, hitting 34, 35. That's when you'll see guys start using PEDs, especially like in MMA. And that's I feel like Silva just got caught at the right time, if you could call it a blessing in disguise, because I wouldn't be shocked if we see the UFC give this guy a push, because he's clearly you know, the middleweight division is kind of stagnant, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy in a pay-per-view prelim or something like that, because he was a prospect, right? Like he was highly touted when he was coming in, right? 2 years ago. And who was he supposed to fight? Deron Wynn, right? But he was supposed to just destroy him. Yeah. And that would have been now, like in hindsight, thinking about that fight, geez, Silva would have mauled him, I think. And so like I said, don't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if we see some more of this guy, because he's got that it factor. And like I said, the middleweight division is kind of stagnant, but I wouldn't be shocked if they try to push this guy into the top 15, because he can deliver, I think.
Oh, well, I mean, he comes in here on his UFC debut, stellar knockout. The UFC loves to get behind him, some finishers. So I'm with you, Al. This guy might be the real deal, and he might be putting some lights out for a while. So the like I said, the grappling defense was on point. He's got the big power. He's knocking guys out on the feet, on the ground, looking like a dude I can get behind. I'll put it like that. So let's roll on to this next fight. Oh, buddy. Al, I tell you what, straight up, like I said, I started off this night, prelims, did not go well. You know, my girl, Virna Jandiroba gets it done. You know, honestly, listen, let's not even get into that. I'm just going to say my girl, Virna, got it done. But here's what I'm getting at. I was so irritated losing that Dhiego Lima bet and then missing out on Bruno Silva. I totally chased. I'm just going to keep it real, okay? I got frustrated. This was a chase. I said to myself, Sung Choi, I like the guy a lot, okay? I wanted to bet him, but you know what? I still didn't bet him. I said Julian Erosa. My man's very, very erratic. You know, he's either going to get knocked out or he's going to knock somebody out. Either way, you know what that means? Fight doesn't go the distance. I saw it. I think I got it plus 105, maybe plus 110. Close enough to even money. I said, you know what? Somebody's going to sleep here. I popped it off right before they made the walk. Sometimes, Al, I just get a feeling. Do you ever just get a feeling when you're seeing a fight? You know, you couldn't get this feeling yesterday. You couldn't get this feeling a week ago. But sometimes when you see those guys making the walk, you go, this is violence. You feel it in the air. You just get that feeling. I felt that here. I popped one off late. Fight does not go the distance. Cash that one with about 14 minutes to spare, because this one, minute 37 seconds, Sung Choi, the dude is nasty, just takes out Julian Erosa. Julian Erosa had nothing for Sung Choi here. Sure enough, he comes in spasticated, wild, aggressive, coming forward. Sung Choi, okay, the Muay Thai practitioner, the what's the word I'm looking for here? The reveled Muay Thai practitioner just hits him with some bombs, puts him away with the quickness. Sung Woo Choi, my man looked great. Listen, I'm still a little bit mad. It should have been doesn't go the distance, and I should have popped one off. Sung Woo Choi, minus 150. A lot of value there. Why I talked myself out of this play, making this an official play, I'll never know. I knew Sung Woo Choi was going to win this fight. Why I didn't bet on this guy, I don't know, but I got to regret it now. Luckily, I snuck one in late. Al, what did you think of this fight, man?
Yeah, I had the over in this one, which was pretty disappointing because it went rather quickly. What put the nail in the coffin before this fight even started was the tweet from Casey O'Neill that they showed on the screen, which was just like, I'm backing my friend Julian Erosa tonight with like hearts, and I was just like, this is not going to go well for him. He can't be a winner in and out of the cage tonight. Oh! And it was just clear that he was outclassed, majorly outclassed. This Sung Woo Choi guy is going to be a problem, and he's really, really good. And at plus 260 inside the distance, that's props to anybody who backed that. The plus 350 by TKO. And then what was the price that you got the fight goes the distance no at?
I want to say plus 105.
Yeah, that's the average line was about plus 100. So you kind of got the better of that line. And yeah, man, I don't really have much to say about this one. I was riding that the featherweight over trend that we'll talk about in the main event. And this is one of those ones where, the classic, as soon as it started, I knew Erosa was not going to last against this guy. He's just so fluid. He's so, I don't know. And then, don't be surprised if we see the UFC turn this guy around and if we see him on a card again very, very shortly, because, he didn't take any damage, and he looks like the type of guy that, he's that perfect international person that they would love to get behind to spread their brand into Korea. And it's also, it's not a mistake that he was on this card with the Korean Zombie. So yeah, this is another guy similar to Bruno Silva, completely different situation. But don't be surprised if we see a lot more of him in 2021. That's
an absolutely great point, Al. I mean, let's keep it real. The Zombie, although coming off, we're gonna talk about it, but damn near flawless, career-defining performance tonight. He's 34 years old. This could be the perfect guy when Zombie walks away, a perfect guy to hand over that torch. It's like Zombie said, man, this guy's got a country on his back as far as MMA goes. I mean, he's Superman for South Korean MMA. You know what I mean? So, and Sung Woo Choi looks to be phenomenal. But you know what I do? My man Dan Goldstein, I see you in the chat here. You're calling him Superboy. He's not Superboy. That's my man Ho Choi. That is the Korean Superboy. Another young prospect, but a guy that I think just wrapped up his military service and will be coming back to the UFC here shortly. So, yeah, man, I'm with you, Al. I'd love to see a quick turnaround for this dude. I'd love to see him get into another matchup where a potential another highlight reel KO could be in effect. Absolutely knew the Julian Erosa he was going to get tonight. And Julian Erosa was just being himself. That's what Julian Erosa does, for better or worse. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes he's the hammer. Sometimes he's the nail. Falls absolutely right into the game plan and loses this fight. Choi comes through beautifully. Should have absolutely been a much larger favorite. I regret not betting on the guy. Don't think I make that mistake twice. All right, here we go. We are already up to A great fight, Al, and one that I can't wait to talk about from a gambling standpoint because I really sniped this one, my man. Marlon Vera, the unanimous decision win over Davey Grant. How does this fight play out? Pretty similar to every Marlon Vera fight, in my personal opinion. Davey Grant, who's coming off of 2 massive early KOs, comes out very hot in this rematch. These guys fought each other 6 years ago. Both vastly different fighters at this point. I honestly don't think that first fight has much relevance in this matchup tonight. And it definitely played out differently. But Davey Grant comes out hot, and he's landing good shots. Davey Grant, on my scorecard, wins round 1. No questions asked. Davey Grant wins round 1. But, Al, I'm watching this one very, very closely. Why? Because Marlon Vera, a notorious slow starter. This guy gives away round 1 nearly every fight. And I was looking at that live line drop. Davey Grant, everyone sees Davey Grant win round 1. And I say, okay, we already start to see Davey Grant come off the gas a little bit with about 2 minutes to 90 seconds left in the first round. You feel the momentum begin to shift as Marlon Vera starts to find his rhythm, his timing, his distance, and just get a read on Davey Grant. Sure enough, Al, about a minute left in that first round, I pop off a live one on Marlon Vera, minus 150. I think he went off about minus 250 before this fight starts. I saved myself a full $1 waiting for Marlon Vera to lose the first round. He comes in strong in the second. I think wins the second round, albeit fairly close, but man, it becomes apparent. All momentum shifting, goes out there and wins just a dominant third round. Was even scored a 10-8, I think, on all 3 judges' scorecards. A beautiful, beautiful live bet. That's what I'm looking to do every time I hit a live bet. My only live bet of the night, it cashes on Marlon Vera, minus 150. Marlon Vera, dude's legit. I'm not sure why he got this fight with Davey Grant. I think he gets ducked a lot. I think there's a lot of people that don't want to fight Marlon Vera. There's not a lot of name value there. He's a dangerous dude. He wins a lot of fights. For my money, he beat Sung Jung. The only loss he should really have in the last couple years is Jose Aldo. The dude's top 15, top 10. And is he? Do I think he's championship material? Dude, 135 is so loaded with sharks that personally I don't think he is championship level, but I think he's right outside of it, and I'm not going to be surprised if he challenges for a belt. If my man improves a little bit, who knows how things could play out. Is there a chance Marlon Vera could one day be your bantamweight champion in the UFC? Absolutely. This dude's grown so much. He's so complete now. He's so good. Davey Grant, the KO streak comes to an end. The win streak comes to an end. He's 35 years old. Do I think we probably saw his peak in these last couple fights? I think so. But the dude gave a pretty good account of himself, and I think he's still going to be hanging in there and probably win some more UFC fights. Al, take it away.
Yeah, I was kicking myself. I'm a giant Marlon Vera fan, huge Marlon Vera fan, but I had to go with Davey Grant just by matter of principle. Like I've talked to you before about my way of approaching things. I was on Davey Grant before at huge plus money. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, let it ride. You're getting him again at huge plus money. Take it. And I did. And I felt pretty good about it after the first round. And I even saw they showed on the broadcast that after the first round, Vera was still favored. And I was thinking like, well, I mean, if he won the first round, he should probably be closer to pick him. And basically, as soon as they put that on the screen, that's about when the fight flipped and when the momentum changed. And I also had fight goes the distance no in this one, and I was really hoping, after it was obvious that Grant wasn't going to win, Vera had him in that choke, and I was just hoping that he would have got the finish there.
So close, dude.
Yeah, and crazy. It's crazy. Marlon Vera is only 28 years old. It feels like he's been around forever, and it feels like he's like matured. And like if you told me if you told me before I looked it up that Marlon Vera was 34, I would have totally believed you. But
Right.
like this guy's got he's got the sky is the limit, if you want to say that phrase, because, you know, I agree with you that he's probably not championship material, but what he is one of those guys that all he needs is a little bit of a little bit of a luck streak, a little bit of a push, and, you know, a couple of things to go wrong for a couple of other fighters. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him challenge for a title shot. It's kind of a log jam up at in the top 5 of bantamweight, but yeah, I think he's got a lot ahead of him here, and I like the call out to Dominic Cruz, but I don't think that fight's going to happen. And I think that it's a good call out for him, but technically, like if you're talking ranking wise, there's a lot smarter fights for him to take. I think there's a couple of guys ahead of him in the rankings that he could probably beat. And, you know, the thing about Cruz is just you never know what you're going to get. And it could be like it could be one of those nights where he makes you famous and you just get knocked out by Dominic Cruz. And then you're the guy who got knocked out by Dominic Cruz. So I was like, I'd like that. I'd like that call out just for name value, but I feel like Marlon Vera could, I don't know. I think that he's got a better path to being into the top 5. But yeah, this was interesting. This is his first decision victory for Marlon Vera. We'll talk about the same thing with the Korean Zombie. His first decision victory since 2016. Marlon Vera 6-3 coming into this one in his previous 9 fights. All 6 wins inside the distance, all 3 losses by decision. So tonight was the first one that was a decision win. So he's now 7-3 in his last 10 UFC appearances, and he's 2 units profit with a 7-3 record on the money line since 2018, which is surprising. This guy's been, I guess, a relatively big favorite in a lot of fights, but you know, you go back, he was probably like a 2-1 underdog in that O'Malley fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what it is. I'll have to go back and look. You think there'd be some more value on him? But yeah, this guy, I'm all about him. And you know what it is though? It's now 1-1 between these two guys. I think they got this is a good enough fight, and I don't even really care if it was kind of one-sided. I would love to see this fight in front of fans on a pay-per-view card, 100%, a trilogy fight. I'd like to see them run it back. I think it's Vera, for Vera, it kind of doesn't make sense, but I just think it's a fight that people want to see, and they're both fan favorites. And I think that this is the type of fight that the UFC would give these guys a little bit more money to make it happen. What do you think about that?
Whew, Al, I'm not the way that 3rd round went. I'm not sure if Davey Grant wants that smoke, man. That
yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
Like when you look at this fight, when you look at, like, let's say we put the 2 fights together, like there was never any time between them. This went from like Davey Grant, you know, he wins the first one. Davey Grant comes out, he's winning the second one, and now it's like the needle's totally swung the other way. Marlon Vera's putting a whipping on this dude, and honestly, I think it's become apparent now. I feel like Vera at this point just kind of figured him out, kind of has his number. I'd expect Vera to absolutely dominate him if they were to fight again. But I'm sure Davey Grant would come out hot again. You know, he'd probably have a very strong first round again. But I don't know, man. Davey Grant, I mean, the guy's 35. Like, he needs to be very selective in these next few fights because they're going to be few and far between at 135. You know what I mean? Al, should we move on here?
Yeah, this next one was the crown jewel for me. Let's talk about this one.
Nice. Yeah, Sergey Spivak comes in here, man, takes out a very old and very dangerous still Aleksei Oleinik. 3-round unanimous decision, man. Sergey Spivak gets it done. Is it sketchy at times? Yes. Am I questioning the fight IQ of Sergey Spivak to continuously get into the guard of Aleksei Oleinik? I'm like, yeah, especially as good as the fight's going for him on the feet. Man, this is an interesting one, right? Because nobody in the world saw Aleksei Oleinik. I say nobody, but my man Al's going to let you know. No, not a lot of people saw old man Oleinik making it 15 minutes, win or lose here. Sure enough, he does. Unanimous decision win. Sergey Spivak. Where does Aleksei Oleinik go from here? I mean, it's retirement. I mean, this dude's just too old at this point. It's just too much. Sergey Spivak, I'll be honest, man. I feel like we kind of got a ceiling on this guy. He's not that good still. If he was, he probably takes Oleinik out. Dude's tough. He lasts. Sergey Spivak gets the win. I almost feel like a win that didn't really help his stock. And Oleinik, man, I guess let's give him. If the old man wants another fight, let's give him one. But I had nothing on this one, Al. This was a true sit out. I will say this though. Could have hit another good live bet here on Sergey Spivak. I want to say after round one, Sergey's sitting at about a minus 150-ish area. I debated it. I almost pulled the trigger, but I said, you know what? Oleinik, he might pull something out of his back pocket, something weird. I wasn't digging the fight IQ of Sergey Spivak. But you know what really scared me off pulling the trigger live on Spivak? The horrendous judging we saw all night literally cost me money in the fact that it spooked me off of a spot that I should have hit. So a little bit irritated. Nobody to blame but myself probably. They gave it to Spivak. The fight plays out pretty close. Al, this is your time to shine, though. Let them know.
Just really quickly, what exactly terrible judging are you talking about? Are you talking about the fight where the woman had her arm dislocated and won the round? Because that was the most egregious.
Let's go there. We got to go there. It's just one of those things. So for people who aren't aware, Virna Jandiroba dislocated the arm. I mean, literally, it's Jamal Hill all over again. Dislocates the arm of Kanako Murata at the end of the first round, okay? Which, when your arm is disabled, that should be the end of the fight, right? We had issues on a couple levels here. Why the referee, Chris Taioni, stood 5 minutes of the second round looking at the mangled arm of Murata and said, hey, looks good to me, man. While she's eating head kicks due to the fact that she can't lift the arm to protect that side of her head. I'll never know. Thank goodness we have doctors between rounds. And Taioni's like, hey, that looks a little bit weird to me. Can you take a look at that? The doctor walks up, like, touches it, and he's like, dude, what? Like, yeah, this fight's over. Like, what are you talking about, dude? This chick's arm's done. But here's the problem. That's a problem in itself, okay? Here's the real problem. Adelaide Bird, the notorious worst judge in combat sports history, not just in MMA. She's been botching boxing matches since 1984. You know what I mean? She scores the first round of that fight, an arm-breaking, absolute utter domination, almost finished repeatedly round for Kanako Murata. Scores Kanako Murata a 10-9 over Virna Jandiroba in that first round. Al, I can't think of a worse round ever scored in my life. I think that's the new number one. Luckily, like I said, the fight ends before the scorecards matter. But that right there should be grounds. I mean, I just don't even know what to relate it to, Al. There's really not much out there that's as egregious as scoring that round for Murata. I mean, what do you have to say about this, Al?
It's similar to I don't know if you saw it, but it happened in the NHL where a referee got caught talking on a hot mic, saying that he wanted to get a penalty on the other team to make it more even, and that referee got fired. But it's similar to that, where it's just like, the only explanation of this is that, well, there's two. There's the the stupidity explanation that the incompetence explanation that she just got the two fighters mixed up, or the corrupt explanation where they wanted to make the fight close, or she wanted to make the fight close and so gave it to Murata. And I had the under in this one, so I was extremely happy that went down the way it did. But
so what were you thinking the entire time she's circling the cage with a broken arm, eating shots, and you have the under? Al, I would have lost my mind if I had the under. I mean, I had Jandiroba. I'm like, can we just stop? This fight's over. What are we doing? Give me my winnings. Like, come on. The under, though, had to be a whole nother level of insanity, man.
Well, and it was just like, we'll get back to the heavyweight bout in a second, but it was just like, it's weird, though. I didn't notice until Anik said it in the broadcast. You know what I mean? She's got a very weird, unorthodox style where she kind of has her arms out like this anyway. You know what I mean? So
you're right, but man, that was real unorthodox with the broken, dislocated elbow.
And then like even Virna, she didn't notice. She landed that head kick, and then it just bothered me so much. Also that I was just like, I wanted to finish, so I'm just like, just take her down, and this fight is over. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. Anyways, that was absolutely unbelievable, terrible judging. But anyways, to get back to the Spivak
back to the actual fight we're trying to talk about, right?
Yeah. So let me just break down I want to do a video about this sometime, because this is how I find some of these ridiculous plus money bangers that I land on here. And the way that I feel about the way that I get to this is like, I look at the betting trends between heavyweights, and I see it's cashed at like a 52% rate over the last 2.5 years, 57 and 52. And so that means about like plus 105. If you're getting plus 105 or better, theoretically on the over in heavyweight, which is only really about 7.5 minutes, it's typically only over 1.5s that you're going to see at heavyweight. If you're going to give me, this is another one where it's two, I know Oleinik is ranked, but it's two non-ranked heavyweights. If you're going to give me an over 1.5 at plus money, I'm almost always going to take it, unless it's like, two perennial finishers in the heavyweight. I'm always going to lean the over if you're going to give me plus money on it. And then this is another thing that I have gotten used to doing. We talk about the fight goes the distance at the beginning of every show, and that has ended up cashing at a 57% rate. Fight goes the distance, yes. So 137, 105, and 3 since the start of this year. So plus 35 units since the start of this year. So at 57%, if you're going to give me 4-1 odds, which is what this was, plus 425 for this fight to go the distance, I'm going to take it, because I just feel like it's not and it ended up turning out almost exactly how I wanted. It was just Oleinik could have got finished, and Spivak was just gassed and couldn't he couldn't turn the pressure up and get the finish by just TKO. Oleinik was always able to evade and get out of it. But yeah, the over 1.5 cashed at plus 130, and fight goes the distance, yes, cashed at plus 425. And those two bets basically saved my night, because I was on quite a bit of a losing streak from the start of the main card up into this fight. And then after that, I could have turned it off and walked away, and I would have made money regardless of what happened on the main event. So this is just one of my typical mainstay things, is betting the overs in these heavyweight fights, because the market thinks that these are going to be quick, and a lot of the time they're not, especially when you got guys that are 40 freaking years old who are laying down in the corner rather than sitting.
Yeah.
This was just a classic. I don't know why this is a co-main event. The fight that we just talked about could have easily been the co-main event. Virna and Murata could have easily been the co-main event, but this slop fest was the co-main event. But I made a lot of units on it, so it was okay for me. But just a typical play for me of just these plus money on the totals and at heavyweight.
Yeah, you nailed that one, dude. I mean, just like I said earlier, I didn't see a lot of people thinking. This was one of those ones where it's Dominic Cruz, I'm sure at the beginning was like, don't blink, everybody. There's no way this goes to the scorecards. You know what I mean? Like, I swear, there's nothing better as an over better than when Dominic Cruz says there's no way this one goes to the scorecards. Because every time the dude says it, that mofo goes to the scorecards.
Well, Bleed, just to go on a tangent again, he said it at the start of Chaos Williams, Matthew Singleton.
Yeah, of course he did.
And I cashed at plus 155 for fight to go the distance. So I was all over that one too.
Yeah, you had to just be loving it when you heard that come out of his mouth. Bisping, of course, there's no way. It's going to be a bloodbath. Yeah. And then it's a snooze fest. I'm telling you, man, these commentators just they're the kiss of death on some of these spots, honestly. It totally feels like that. All right. See, and I even gave the folks the Dom Cruz impression, man. They love the Dom Cruz. I got to be real, though. Spot on, baby. I got it down. Pat. All right. That was your I'm with you, Alex. Kind of a head scratcher main event or co-main event spot. But you know what wasn't a head scratcher? This main event. Oh, buddy, this is the one right here, man. Gots to take the victory lap because I just don't think a lot of people were on Korean Zombie. And guess what? The betting lines absolutely informed me that was the case because Dan Ige a couple days ago, Al, I'm looking at this fight, On Tuesday, I dropped the prediction video. I said, I think Korean Zombie should win this fight, but I think it's probably going to be pretty close, and I think it probably goes to a decision, and they give the nod to Korean Zombie. That was at dead even, a pick'em, minus 115 apiece. No, literally the gambling public is looking at this fight almost waiting for the line to break one way or the other. You know what I mean? I almost feel like this fight, a lot of people were waiting to see the movement, waiting to see if some sharps started to move the line. And sure enough, that money was all one-way traffic, and it was all Dan Ige as we closed in on this fight. I mean, I got Korean Zombie at plus 130. You know what I mean? And Al, when I was looking at Korean Zombie as a pick'em, I'm saying to myself, man, this is a volatile fight. I could see it being very close. I could see Dan Ige winning this fight. Career trajectory, it feels like Dan Ige is the guy more on the come up, going up against the aging veteran who may be plateauing, if not declining, based off Zombie's last performance. So I kind of backed off. I kind of sat and waited, man. And as that number sweetened on Chan Sung Jung, I said, this has just become a no thought. It became a no-brainer to me. I said, I'm debating this guy at minus 115. He's now plus 130. That's such a tremendous shift in value. And I know to a more novice gambler, that might not seem like a big difference, but mathematically, implied probability-wise, that's a huge shift, man. And I felt like that at that point, I just didn't have to think about it anymore. I let the numbers take the wheel, and I put a bet on the Korean Zombie, and my man Zombie comes out here and wins in dominant fashion. Speaking of questionable scorecards, 48-47 Korean Zombie is not the right answer. That's not the fight we saw tonight. We saw a 50-45 at absolute worst 49-46 Korean Zombie victory tonight. Korean Zombie's just better. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. He's the better striker. He's the better wrestler. He's the better grappler. He's the better scrambler. He's the better counterpuncher. Korean Zombie is just better than Dan Ige, and Dan Ige's really good. I questioned whether or not Korean Zombie was still going to be an elite fighter after the beating he took from Brian Ortega. My man's elite. He looked great, poised, focused. I mean, the amount of shots that he saw coming and got out of the way of, ultra impressive. Korean Zombie, man, a much needed win. I get back on the right track. Al, I lost my tremendous main event winning streak last week, taking the shot on the plus 200 underdog. I bounced back on the plus 130 underdog tonight. Cash the bet. Happy to cap off the card with a big underdog win. I'm a Korean Zombie fan. I'm so glad to see this guy get back on track. Like I said, the guy's still elite. Who he fights next, I'm not sure, but it needs to be a big name. Dan Ige, the guy's still got the skills. He's just not as good as Zombie is right now. And Dan Ige's still going to be a top 15 guy, I think, in my opinion. Yeah. Al, what did you have? What did you think about this main event?
Yeah, this was one that I treaded really carefully on, like you. And I think I said two things. I said one thing last week that made a lot of sense, and it was basically I'm going to be on whatever side is giving me plus money. And I did say that Korean Zombie was a decision machine, which tonight was his first decision victory since 2008. So that was nonsense. And I just thought he has gone deep into fights many times, but he's either lost those fights or gotten the stoppage or lost by decision. So yeah, this is his first ever UFC decision, which blew my mind when I heard that. And he's only had 10 fights in the UFC, obviously because of his 2 years that he was out due to the mandatory military service. But he's the Korean Zombie has cashed for over 11 units profit with a 7-3 record on the money line in his UFC career. And so he's come in at some heavy plus money a couple of times. And yeah, he just looked different. He looked completely different from the walkout to him being announced, just to the way that he was setting up his shots. He looked like a completely different fighter than he did against Ortega. There was a confidence in his game that was there tonight that was not there against Brian Ortega. And the thing about Zombie is he's such a crowd pleaser that he tends to fight differently based on the environment. And I feel like kind of that Fight Island environment, he was kind of just like on his heels. And tonight he was just capable and, in his own backyard, basically fighting out of Arizona, not too far of a trek for him. And he just looked comfortable from the very beginning. And he tends to have this style where it's kind of like you go, I go, or it's kind of just a staring contest, and both guys can kind of counter at the same time. And the way to beat him is to kind of get out of that rhythm, right? We saw Yair have a lot of success in that fight doing that and just getting out of that weird zombie rhythm. And then we saw Ortega pretty much do the same thing in a different sense. But Dan Ige that's the fight was taking the path that Korean Zombie was letting it take. And yeah, I don't really know. There's only two fights that make sense, and it's Holloway and he's injured now, or Cater and he's injured now. So like typical Korean Zombie fashion, he's just gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, man. He's got to get a big fight. It's got to be a big fight, just plain and simple. Yeah, I would have to look at the rankings. I really don't know, but I think you're right, man. I think he probably he didn't take a lot of damage. He should be able, I think. Oh, well, you know what, though? My man Will just reminded me in the chat. Yeah, Korean Zombie's talking about how he did hurt his shoulder, I think, early in the fight. There actually might be something to that. I wouldn't be surprised if Zombie actually does have to sit out some time, which is unfortunate. But Yeah, he's right back in the mix, no doubt. That was, like I said earlier, an absolutely elite performance. There's a lot of guys that would beat Dan Ige, but they wouldn't make it look that easy. And I'm not saying that Korean Zombie necessarily made it look easy, but I will say this: he made it look easier than I ever imagined, and he impressed me. He won in areas of this matchup that I thought he could do well. I thought would be much closer. And he was just a better man, straight up. So Korean Zombie back on track. Like I said, absolutely thrilled to hit him at just a prime number at the prime time. And he just gets it done, man. So there you go. That's it. That's UFC Vegas 29.